The grift, that's what it has always been about for Donald Trump, so the idea of a bribe shouldn't surprise anyone. This is an administration openly signaling that Donald Trump expects to be paid to cut sweetheart deals for people like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, paid to favor any world leader willing to funnel money into Trump's crypto coin or flatter him with gifts and access. In this case, it wasn't subtle. It was billions of dollars. A massive bribe that Donald Trump was caught on camera openly bragging about. And why? Because he's a criminal who can't help himself. We're going to break down exactly how Trump got caught and what crime he's boasting about this time. But before we do, please take a moment to like this video, and if you enjoy the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps support our work. And before we get into the bribe itself, we need to start with the broader economic picture facing everyday Americans. Because while it's bad for Trump's presidency, it's even worse for the rest of us who aren't billionaire criminals.
Also spoke about jobs, right? Well, you know, John King was talking about the unemployment rate. Look, in January, it was 4.0%. By May, 4.2%. Now the latest reading that was out earlier this week, 4.6%, the highest unemployment rate since 2021. Now, these are the measures of the economy, right? But how do Americans actually feel about it? And all I can say is they feel awfully about it, because take a look here. Percentage who say that we're on the right track when it comes to inflation. Just 20%, just 20% of Americans say we're on the right track. The vast majority of Americans think we're on the wrong track when it comes to inflation. What about jobs? Just 27% of Americans think we're on the right track when it comes to jobs in this country. So we're talking about under 30% on two key economic metrics. And then I'll leave you with this, Caitlin Collins, and that is Donald Trump's economic net approval rating. It is just flat out awful, and it has declined precipitously since the beginning of his second term in office. Look at this. Trump's net approval rating on the economy. In January, he was in positive territory at plus 6%. Way down he goes. Now, according to the latest Reuters Ipsos poll, he is 25 points underwater. Donald Trump was elected to fix the economy. It was a strength for him during his first term, but at this point, it is an anchor on him, and that is why we're seeing poll after poll after poll showing him with a net negative approval rating, and in some polls, the worst approval rating he has had in his entire second term.
This is the issue Donald Trump focused on more than anything else on the campaign trail. Well, aside from his constant grievances, the rambling about Hannibal Lecter, whales, windmills, and all the usual nonsense, it was the economy. Trump promised prices would drop on day one. Have they? No, but that was his core pitch. That he was the so-called businessman who knew what he was doing. The same man who bankrupted casinos and is best known for slapping his name on ugly buildings is now trying to do the same to the White House, and apparently even the Kennedy Center. That's become a perfect metaphor for his political career. But the economy wasn't the only promise Trump made. He also made promises about the Epstein files. And those two issues, the economy and Epstein, have come to define his presidency so far. They're deeply connected, especially now, because everything ties back to the criminal bribe Trump was just offered. That bribe comes straight from within the Epstein inner circle, what Ro Khanna aptly calls the Epstein class. That's why Rachel Maddow's breakdown of the people closest to Epstein who are now entangled with Trump is so important before we get into how Trump was caught this time.
What happened to the lawyer who got Epstein his bizarrely lenient plea deal when he was first arrested on sex trafficking charges in Florida? What happened to the lawyer who got him that bizarrely lenient plea deal? Well, Trump hired him to be his own lawyer. What happened to the U.S. attorney who gave Jeffrey Epstein that bizarrely lenient plea deal? Trump put him in his cabinet in his first term. Well, who then prosecuted Epstein a second time when he was brought up on federal charges? That was the SDNY line prosecutor who Trump inexplicably fired last week. Who was in charge of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons when Epstein then killed himself in federal custody? President Donald Trump. Who bragged to a reporter about how much Epstein seemed to like women on the younger side? Who said Epstein was a lot of fun to be with? Who bragged that he was friends with Epstein for 15 years? Who flew on his plane at least 7 times? And who now says that everybody needs to stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein right now? Answers there are Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump.
That lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, is a name that matters. It's an important name when trying to understand the full scope of Donald Trump's criminality. Dershowitz has repeatedly defended Trump, not only legally, but publicly as well. And as we've seen time and time again, many of the same media figures who now want everyone to move on from Jeffrey Epstein often turn out to have their own connections to him. Dershowitz is no exception. His relationship with Epstein was deep, well-documented, and very public. So, of course, he continues to run defense for Donald Trump, but it doesn't stop with Epstein. Dershowitz has also been involved in defending Trump in other ways, including aligning himself with Trump's biggest financial backers. And no, not Elon Musk. Trump's most powerful donor is Miriam Adelson. That is a name people need to know and pay attention to. Adelson has made her influence, her corruption, and her bribes increasingly public, and she did so right on camera with Donald Trump.
And now I met Alan Dershowitz, and he said the legal thing about 4 more years, and I said, Alan, I agree with you, so we can do it. Think about it.
Alan's
and I
here
would be,
someplace. Where's Alan?
Alan is here, or he had a flight? Alan is here? Think about it.
Thank you.
Maybe I will be the first one who tell you, or second. Yeah.
She said, think about it. I'll give you another 250.
I will give.
But her husband, Sheldon, was an amazing guy.
Miriam Adelson is an Israeli-American billionaire and the widow of casino magnate Sheldon Adelson. Like her late husband, she has been one of the most powerful forces in Republican politics, and she was Donald Trump's single biggest donor, giving him a staggering $250 million in the last election. Now, she's openly praising Trump for what he's done for billionaires, for deregulated gambling, and most of all, for advancing the interests of Israel's far-right government. Interests she clearly prioritizes over the well-being of everyday Americans. She is effectively telling Trump, run again, even for an illegal 3rd term, defy the Constitution, and I'll write another massive check. This is not a joke. Adelson has benefited enormously from Trump's presidency and has consistently lobbied him to give Netanyahu free rein. She has openly celebrated Trump's support for policies that have enabled ongoing violence and human rights abuses, and now she is offering him a blank check to hold on to power so she can further her wealth and political goals. Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's longtime lawyer, is part of this same circle. That's the class of people pushing Trump toward a 3rd term. While Trump himself may be physically and mentally deteriorating, the danger lies with the billionaires and power brokers around him. These are the same tech oligarchs, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson's circle, who built J.D. Vance's career and see him as their long-term investment. They don't want a healthy, growing economy. They want unregulated AI, mass job losses, total surveillance, and trillions in profit for themselves. J.D. Vance is their vehicle, just as Trump was. All of this is connected. The Epstein network, billionaire donors, unregulated tech, and foreign policy driven by profit and ideology rather than humanity. They're saying it out loud now. And we're going to keep calling it out on this show. If you want to support that work, hit subscribe, leave a like, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.